Good morning. That was beautiful. That was the message. Be silent, the still small voice. I was realizing, I was noticing on the earlier talk that I wasn't as nervous as I sometimes am when I come up to speak. And then I realized when I was sitting there, it's because I get to have you guys today. So thank you. I love this. I love the musicians. I love the music that we have here, but I get the privilege to follow your act. And it's a gift. And I close my eyes, and it seems like there's so many of them. It's amazing. It's like you're channeling 500 people or something. Thank you. So I like this talk. It's about God speaking through your heart. And we're going to do a little bit of play with that and invite you into a practice that involves you in the teaching. But before we go there, I'll do a few little lead-ins. It's interesting, this last Friday, I invited the practitioner unit over to my house, and we were watching the film of a series from Eckhart Tolle. And this series started in 2004, and he was about being a teacher of the presence. And it's so funny about Eckhart Tolle, because when I first ever listened to him, I thought, well, what an interesting person that is. He sort of disappears. He's sort of pale and little crew-cutty hair and little mouth and little elf. And so this and I'm sorry, but a little judgment stuff would crop up in me. And I would be so distracted by that. And then I was sharing with the crowd when we first started, he takes his jacket off just like Mr. Rogers and hung it on the back of the chair. And then I'm all in my mind going, wow, this is going to be an interesting hour and into the day. But I tell you, we were laughing at him like it was Comedy Central. And I'm thinking, look at us. We were so amused and right with everything that he's an incredible teacher and incredibly wise. So if you have that opportunity to sit long enough with any of his sharings, he's so wise, and he's got all of the teachings from lifetimes upon lifetimes. He's presenting it, and his little mannerisms will twitch, and then he'll think he's really funny, and he'll do these little mannerisms. I'm just laughing, and I think it's because our heart's open to him. And that's what the talk is about today, to not listen with your head, but to open up the heart. And by the end of that hour of listening to him, I was absolutely in love with him. I kept thinking, now he looks incredibly handsome to me. That's weird. And so, but that's what the heart does. Drops all of the little filters of judgment. All of it just kind of fades away, and we're just connected heart to heart. So some of the information I share with you comes from the Heart Math Institute, but before I launch into that, I appreciated Damien's reading of Ernest Holmes. He speaks so much, volumes are written by him, and so much of it, and I know a lot of you have said this with that Science of Mind, it's thick. And sometimes I can read it and going, what did I just read? I just read about 5 pages, but I don't know what I just read. And I would backtrack. And yet when I pilfer from the readings and look for just certain pieces that are referencing what I want to know, it opens up a whole nother world to me. So his writing truly is from the heart, but we're looking at it so much from the intellect, from the mind. And Ken Gordon gives us some ideas to make sure that we all are sharing the same message throughout the year in all the different centers across the world. And his sharing reminded us that key to this teaching is that everything, and it's in the textbook as well, when you want to demonstrate a greater good in your life, it is the thought that we think of, but it's the heart, the feeling. Those two come together and a demonstration presents itself. If you don't have that ingredient of feeling what you're longing for, it'll keep feeling like it's escaping you, that it isn't happening, that change isn't manifesting in your world. Think about that. Next time you have a deep longing for something to be added to your life or different in your life or changed in any way, we don't so much focus on that. It is our launching point. But then we immerse ourselves in an absolute knowing that it is so. And Greg Braden shares this story, and I've seen it in many different texts, where he was with some indigenous people, and they needed rain really bad. The drought had been unbearable, and they had chosen this shaman to go up onto the hill and do the prayers for the rain. And so he got to go along with that. And so he gets up there and he takes his seat, and the shaman goes and stands there. He says, "Okay, let's go." And Greg said, "Well, I thought we were here to pray for rain." He goes, "No, we're not going to pray for anything." And he goes, because that means we don't have it, and that'll continue to so. And he goes, "Well, what did you just do?" And he said, "I put my feet in the mud. I felt my feet in the mud. I felt my clothes saturated, drenched with the rain. My heart opened and I felt it. And now I know it's so." And by the evening, the storm clouds gathered and they had more rain than they could deal with. And I thought to myself, that is the ingredient. That is what our practitioners are doing for you whenever you're invited in to that sacred time together, when we have that holy dialogue. Because there is that launching place, what do I want or need? But then there's the absolute knowing that it is already so. That's why we pray and end every prayer. It is already so. It is affirmed and it is so. And we stand with our feet in the mud, knowing, visualizing, feeling that ingredient of the absolute. It's where the divine and the human meet, in the heart, where you feel. So oftentimes the invitation as I speak today is to, where am I feeling? Where do I feel? Do I feel at all? Am I so numbed out that I forgot how to feel? Am I so filled with critical thinking and judgment that I can't feel anymore? What is that? And so you sit very, very still, and the divine speaks to you. The divine communes with you at the stillness of the heart. And in that moment, the still small voice reveals a greater awakening, a greater knowing, a greater comfort. And it shuts down the thinking mind. And you begin to breathe and beat with the heart of the divine. That's the connection. That's the spiritual path. That's the journey. Because whatever we truly want, whatever we want, we must feel the feeling that is backing it up. So Ernest Holmes reminds us that Jesus spent much time in communion with the divine. And he reminds us that in that, communing with his own soul, going to those moments where he just 40 days, just walking away, and allowing himself to really connect with the innermost divine. He allowed himself to drop to the center of his heart and to dwell there, to find and reveal the truth, and then approach the world. And this is not found through our senses. We can't find this through touching and tasting and seeing and hearing. That all is very helpful to bring it into a pattern of understanding. And Yogananda reminds us of this when he shares this enlightened way of teaching. He talks about it because you see this heart space where Spirit, Divine, God, Father, it speaks to you. It is the intuition, because then it comes through you in that still small voice as an urge, as a temptation to follow that without fear, without doubt, but with courage and with love, knowing that you spent the time in the stillness turning down the senses, turning down the frequency of being bombarded with news and being bombarded with, well, other people or your family or your mother or your father thinks you should have done it this way. All that goes away. And you sit and you speak to the one that does know, and the answers are revealed. So Yogananda says, thus it is by intuition that God can be realized in all the aspects. We have no sense that can reveal knowledge of him. The senses give knowledge only of what he has already manifested. No thought or inference can enable us to know him as he truly is, for thought cannot go beyond the data of the senses. It cannot go beyond those imprints that we begin to discern with. And this is not a bad thing, but it's just a wake-up point to realize there's always more. And so when we realize that thought can only go so far, it can only arrange and interpret the impressions that our senses have first woke up in us. And then we plant those seeds, and then we water those seeds, and then we operate from those seeds, and they become planted and deeply grooved inside of us. But are they the truth? And then we turn to master teachers. We turn to where our heart points the way. We listen with the heart space, and we are directed by the light, and we follow that light, and intuitively we know, and we are demonstrated by the experiences around us that we have arrived at a greater understanding. So when the senses are unable, thought, depending on them, is also unable to bring us to God. So it is intuition that we shall have to turn for the knowledge of the one in his blissful and in all his other aspects. So many, many things can get in front of this intuition. And right away, we can name the doubt, the time where we have doubted. Is that real? Should I do that? Should I do that? I always wanted to be something else in my world, perhaps for you. But I always just kind of stayed being a clerk. Nothing wrong with being a clerk. But what if you wanted to be an artist and you never tried? Because you put doubt and worry, maybe not enough if you had that avenue. What if you became a doctor and you never really wanted to be one? You know, you wanted to play the flute and you never tried because you suddenly got ingrained in this other way of life. What's calling you? Listen. Listen, listen, listen to that still small voice that is forever beckoning you to wake up to the desire of the heart to be made manifest, to reach out and to love and to let go of the unskillful ways where we have held people away. So doubt can get in the way, worldly mindedness, false ideas, instability. These are either inherent or engendered and are aggravated through the association with them. So in the sutra class, we're studying this in great precise detail to see how does this get in the way of the true heart. And yet we all have this wonderful, vast space of the heart, always beating, always reminding us, I'm right here with you. I'm right here with you. The heart, I'm not talking about the organ of the heart, though that is a part of it. I was sharing with the earlier service, with this Heart Math Institute, they've understand that the heart has its own brain. The heart was the first organ developed in the beginning of your life, before the brain. So, what gave it its first impression to beat? The divine. The cells gathered, and when they were in critical mass, the charge happened, and these particular cardiac cells are like no other in the body, and they beat, and they interpret emotion and feeling, and they send more messages to your brain than your brain sends to the heart. They send more because they feel, and they interpret. And so often, I know for many people that are caught in a grief, and they just think, I'll deal with my grief by closing it down, by just burying it down in there deep, then I won't have to feel it. No, you got to breathe. You got to breathe big into that vast space. This heart space is described as 4 to 6 feet all around you, above you, around you. It's a matrix of energy, of positive, negative energy. It's real, and it's all around you. And it wraps itself around you, and you move with it like you're wrapped inside of a huge donut. It has this feelings rise up from the heart space down the arms, back up into the heart and back around, but also from the crown of your head and round and underneath your feet. So you visualize, wow, I'm in this orb of light. I am wrapped in light. And Damien, in the earlier service, we played with my wands, my little water witching wands, and demonstrated that open heart. He was at the bell and he could get no further than a step. And these interpreted that he's right there. They cross over. And then I had him close his heart, and he was able to walk all the way up to me with a closed heart. And then we opened him back up. Who wants a closed heart at Damien? I was just not right in the world. But energy. And we're all a part of that. And yet sometimes we think, what just happened to me? I can't explain it with my mind. No, you can't. But you can explain it with your heart when you keep your heart open and you listen to the still small voice. So, fascinating science. Nishala Devi wrote, I studied with her as a yoga teacher for Yoga of the Heart. And she starts off one of her books in the science lab. They took 2 cardiac cells from one person and another from another person. Put them in petri dishes. This one goes bleep, blop, bleep, blop, bleep, blop. And this one goes blop, bleep, blop, bleep, blop, bleep. They took one from here and one from here, put them in a new dish, silence. And then bleep, blop, bleep, blop. They found a new rhythm. And they beat as one. I think that's fascinating with ourselves, with this energy pattern, with this communication. I can't see it, so I don't believe it. But the science is showing us this. It all comes from the heart space. And so in the heart math, what we're going to play with is a meditation that takes you from the head to the heart, where you breathe that divine love, where you are guided and supported by this divine sweetness. So as Greg Braden was sharing his influence in our world, he's a prominent scientist, and then all the people at the Heart Math Institute, and all of this research Greg Braden had found, it's in all of the ancient texts, clear back in the ancient volumes of scrolls that they're digging up. They already knew this, maybe not in the same scientific terms, but everything's pointing to this. And we're going, oh, that's what that means. That's not so hard, keeping our hearts open. So this human effect into this field. Each person has to take responsibility for the energy that they're allowing to be in their field, into their space. And this is a little demonstrative tool we're going to use with our breathing in a minute. But think about those times, like there was Damien's heart just wide open like this. And then when I told him to close it down. But how many times in an hour, in 15 minutes, can you feel your heart open? Oh, what a beautiful day. Oh, what an irritating driver that is. Oh, what a beautiful day. You know, it's just, it happens like that. And we go, oh, why is my heart, why couldn't I just let that driver go by? Why did I do this? You haven't tended long enough to those seeds of reactive feeling like you're a better driver than them. But when we can get to the place, oh, bless you, you must be in a hurry. Beep, bleep, 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 where our hearts become one. We interchange this energy field all the time. And yet, because we can't see it, we forget about it. And we think that the brain that's thinking all these thoughts, things that we have learned, are in charge of what is. Bleep, bleep, the heart will speak to you. As we get still long enough, because you see, it is in those meditative visioning moments where the divine speaks, where we're silent long enough. Let's be silent long enough so that we can hear. And then we apply our prayer. We have a dialogue with the divine. And we begin to speak as if it's so. And we feel refreshed and restored and renewed with humanity. And if we all are taking a piece of this, so no matter what is triggering you out there in the world, this is a critical time. It's more annoying than ever to get you to open up, not to walk around that you just heard something icky on the news, and then we just go around with our shopping carts. Are they one of those? And then you hear them say something, you're going, oh, I can open up to them. Oh, but not them. No, we're all one. We're all trying to find our way. And if we just keep breathing love, our heart keeps beating, and we begin to be more inclusive. That's what that means, to be more inclusive in our world. So this grouping of cells, this first heartbeat, where did that come from? Chicken or the egg? Where does this come from? It only comes from the divine. So when we become less aggressive and more cooperative, as we settle into the messages transmitted into our field, remember, it's coming at us, 6 feet in front of us, it's going to be there, even if you try to avoid it, if you try to turn the corner. It's going to be there, especially if it's a huge deal. It's going to draw your heart space in. So this organ, this first organ of our being, this is the divine instrument, the divine tool that God speaks to us. And as we become more cooperative and settle with these messages, this axis in the center of our heart being begins to radiate out greater understanding, greater compassion, greater empathy, less doubt. You see, it starts to fold its way back in to you being the divine instrument of this flow. So there's 3 steps. You want to focus your heart first in the center of your being. Oftentimes, as I'm talking here, you might be listening with your head and barely breathing. And then when I invite us into the meditation, you will be dropping into the heart space here. It drops like an elevator going down, down, down. And remember, it's all around you. And then you start to feel. And how do you invoke the feeling? You start thinking of, what do you really love? What do you love? Think about what you love. And is it could be my favorite cat, Buddy, came back after 2 months, and I'm holding on to it, and I'm just like, oh, my heart space is huge. And I even got poison oak for me, but I'm still thinking, I don't care. This is huge. Buddy's back. He's gone again, but he was back. So it's temporary. But I love this feeling, and so I can evoke those heart space feelings. Why wouldn't we not invoke those feelings before we start every day and before we go to sleep at night? Why would we wrestle with anything less than that? I don't understand myself there. Because this space is calling us home. And it's right here. And it's when we develop that agape love, when we allow ourselves to play that field, all the other issues drop away and everything is drawn into that light. So we breathe deeper. The breath suddenly goes into the belly space, into the heart space, and then we activate, what am I feeling here? What is the emotion? What am I beginning to understand here? And when you put that focus on, that vibration becomes 5,000 times more powerful. Get that when the scientists have done that on all their little gadgets. Brain chemicals start to go, sending the heart messages, send it to the brain, and the brain sends out this euphoria of truth. And so we pray to be empowered and to feel the feeling of what you really want as if it's already so, to physically feel what you want, it's already so. Feel it. And the heart sending those messages, heart radiating out into this field of the divine. Golden light pouring out through you as you, coming back to you as you. Where there's an experience, there's a feeling. Where there's an experience, remember that every experience you've had, there's been a feeling to go with it. How do you think when you feel that way? So notice sometimes, why am I a little anxious? What other experience have I had that makes me feel anxious? And then truth will be revealed. And you can bypass that anxiety. You'll meet it face to face. You start to rehearse being in the presence and holding on to this divine energy, this consciousness. You become more and more conscious of all the unconscious thoughts. It starts to bring up through you into this field. Where did that come from? Where did that fire through me? And you stay in silence long enough so that you skillfully play in that field and cultivate the love so that when you engage with others, only love flows to you and from you and back. And you start to clear away all of the debris that kept you from this sweet divine moment. So when you start doing this, what happens is all the cells in your body start to get charged up. Your immune system gets boosted up. If you're going to stay along and say, well, I kind of like being a little bit grumpy and negative, there goes chaos. There goes chaos into your life experience. So start looking, every situation, oh, this too. Oh, I've got this one too. I've got a lot of work to do today. The prayer, the heart space, the breathing. Watch as that begins to shift in your life. And these lessons from the heart, from the Institute, says the heart will send neurological information to the brain and the rest of the body. So we've established that. Through the pulse, I love this idea. The heart sends energy in the form of blood pressure waves and changes electrical activity in the brain. So the messenger, central station here, touching every cell, you see, that goes into your body, and you're feeding it with this beautiful affirmative knowing. I get so excited by the ideas of how we can heal and the benefit of the deep, sincere prayer of the heart. This heart communicating with these biochemicals, shooting them through our body, laying them into the very cell walls, reducing the stress. The heart communicates, it's measured, and we can pick it up anywhere. So you want to take this information and you want to feel like you're really being a steward of the divine, an instrument of the divine, that you're waking up. And I'm getting close on my time here, but think about the heart. Bring your attention to the heart as I share this blessed, loving, tender center of your being. Think about my heart, the center. And I start to try to feel yourself breathe into the heart, just to connect with that. Surrounding your heart, there might be layers of pain, rejection, hurt, and abuse. But soften anyway. Find your way through. Breathe deeper and realize the breath and love permeates all of that. Breathe deeper until those walls begin to fade. Be fearless as you approach the heart space. Begin to feel as if I can embrace and touch all pain, all hurt, if I'm only willing to breathe. Unconditionally, the heart continues to pump. It's not hanging you up. It is not hanging you up in any story. The mind will, but the heart is where the love is formed, the love is given. And as this love begins to circulate through your body, it is carrying that feeling and again, nourishing every cell with that love. Thank your heart and the blood, and thank your life that they give you as that beat goes on in that loving space, in that space of the agape, of the truth. Now, here's an experience. With so many disappointments in my life, there was a time when I wasn't quite sure about anything. I'd had many spiritual experiences, but that was early on, and I didn't know if that was real or if I was just hallucinating. Doubt would creep into my mind. Every time I tried to be rational to think things out, I would come up with numerous contradictions that would stimulate fear and resistance. The what-ifs became a part of my vocabulary, and I was immersed again in mental dialogue. I questioned my motive. I challenged myself until I couldn't make any decision. I became locked into indecision. And that was a very painful time when I was completely lost in my mind. Have you been there? Lost in your mind? I was so afraid I couldn't go out at night, and I was in a cocoon of fear. That was the dark night of the soul, and everything appeared impossible, overwhelming, and I could not even get through a day. I was so afraid to even answer the phone. Not knowing what else to do, I prayed, and I had no choice. From the depths of my being, I knew I had to bring my attention to my heart. When would this mind ever rest? The more I was consciously aware of my heart, the more I was able to bring love into every day. And it worked. It was miraculous. As I focused on the love of my heart, my mind relaxed. I released fear. I let myself completely sink into my heart, and it opened like a flower in the sun. Now, where are you breathing right now as you listen? And I'm going to have Judy. I'm going to have Damien play so you can participate in this. Damien and the men back there, sound team, are going to play a meditation of the heart. Some bells. The F note is a note that resonates with the heart. This is now a breathing cue for you. So we relax and our feet are grounded. And we just recognize that we're all kind of breathing. We all have to be breathing. And some of us are breathing like this, some like this, some barely breathing. Some are asleep. But we're going to breathe deeper. So take your mind down into the heart space and begin to feel. You can keep your eyes open on the visual, breathing in full and exhaling completely. Soft belly, soft mind. I breathe in. I breathe out. I breathe in. I breathe out. We breathe as one. Ourselves unite as one. Your breathing is one. There is a field of coherence here. We breathe as one. And the field of our heart is opening. One to the other. This room is opening. I feel now my heart beating. And I choose now to remember someone I love. I stretch my heart wide open as that space of love is felt. Love. I see the eyes of love breathing with me. It's a holy encounter. And I move that image to the image of a wise teacher at the altar of my heart. This teacher has been with me, reminding me of the truth of the still small voice that dwells within me is love itself. It is the Christ center breathing me. I let go into the breath of the divine. My heart is so full. so full in this field of truth. We breathe. And in this moment, there's a critical mass, a tipping point. It spills out. The world is changing. We see it as so. Our feet are established in peace. Our hearts are open to truth. Our mind is still of judgment, criticism, right and wrong. It's more than that. We feel the freedom. We see peace all around us. Breathing as one. Where there is war, we see peace. Where there is hunger, we see satisfaction. Where there is pain, we see compassion. We're breathing as one. All of us in a field of the absolute. And as the music quiets down, we come back into the heart space, into the mind, into the truth, and we relax, knowing that all is well, all is good. And so it is. You did that. Thank you.